Welcome back to the Warbird Mistress. Today is Monday the 9th of March, 1942, and this is A Walk Through the War. Beginning today in the American Theater of Operations with the Zone of the Interior in Washington, D.C., the Executive Order of the 28th of February on military reorganization takes effect. The Army Air Forces, composed of the Army Air Forces Combat Command and the Air Corps, are melted into the single body of the United States Army Air Forces under the command of Hap Arnold. The U.S. Army Air Forces are one component of a three-branched army, with ground forces and services of supply, the latter renamed the Army Service Forces soon, are the other two major commands, all of whom answer to Chief of Staff George C. Marshall. And with that administrative detail out of the way, we move to the China-Burma-India Theater of Operations with the 10th Air Force, where the Japanese and Burma Independence Army forces complete the capture of Rangoon, Burma. While the evacuation of the city was successful thanks to gaps in the Japanese perimeter, General Alexander included among the evacuees, the conquest of Burma is all but complete. Not only does this mean one less valuable transportation resource and the loss of a valuable defensive barrier against an invasion of India, this deprives the Allies of much-needed Burmese rubber and oil assets, and cuts off supplies to the Chinese front by cutting off the Burma Road. Resistance from the small airbase 300 miles north of Rangoon at Magway continues, although these are hampered by the withdrawal of radio and radar equipment to India in order to prevent their capture by Japanese forces rapidly advancing north from the coastline and river deltas. Commonwealth forces at Magway are boosted by the Chinese First Route Expeditionary Forces to Burma, including the 1st American Volunteer Group's 1st, 2nd, and 3rd Squadrons. At this point, differentiating the squadrons is of little use, as only 38 aircraft are available to the Allies, 8 of which are P-40s of the AVG and 15 are Commonwealth Hawker Hurricanes of 10-wing, the remainder being Blenheims and other aircraft. They face off against 271 Japanese aircraft, 115 of which are Nates and Oscars of the 14th, 31st, 62nd, 64th, 70th, and 77th Sentai's, while the primary bombers are Ki-21 Sallies with smaller numbers of Ki-30 Anns. The Japanese capture of Rangoon means that the 5th Air Division of the Japanese Army Air Force can now retain temporary air superiority thanks to their vast numerical advantage in an air denial campaign known as the Air Annihilation Operation, wherein fighters and bombers fly sweep missions together to disrupt operations both in the air and on the ground, disrupt communications, and attack ground forces where encountered. However, while the Japanese achieve air supremacy with a relative ease, they are rarely to obtain air supremacy with their lightly armed, slow, unarmored aircraft, primarily the primitive Nate, supplemented by the new Nakajima Ki-43 Hayabusa, or Oscar, which is vastly superior to the Nate and a dangerous foe, but lightly armed with 2 rifle-caliber machine guns, unarmored, and highly vulnerable to gunfire. It is these Nakajima Type 1s with their retractable undercarriages, Nakajima Sakai radials, and bubble canopies which are often mistaken for Zeeks, and thus led to the myth of the AVG fighting against Zeros. And that was Monday, the 9th of March, 1942. Thank you for tuning in. If you were wondering why I haven't been covering the Flying Tigers up until now, really, it's because I'm doing things through the vision of the United States Army Air Forces, and they, of course, are forces of the Republic of China. But as they become more melded with the rest of Allied Command, you'll probably be hearing a lot more about them. In fact, I can guarantee it. So if you were waiting for that, this was the first episode in which you can say that you heard a bit and can look forward to hearing more. Until then, this is Claire, and I am the Warbird Mistress. Take care.